study in so Tawhid, as we said, is a worldview. It is not just a study in theology or Aqidah. It is how we see and perceive the world, and it's not a matter of one's own understanding, an individual's understanding. Rather, it is a collection of thoughts and a complete ideology that defines the universe. So there are multiple ways of looking at the universe, and the Islamic way is the Tawhidi way, a monotheistic and Tawhidi worldview, a worldview that is based on the recognition, alaykum salam, the recognition of the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The last session we did speak about Tawheed of That, and Tawheed of Sifat, and Tawheed of Af'al, essence, and Tawheed in terms of the attributes, and Tawheed in terms of the actions. And also we spoke about Tawheed al-Ibadah, Tawheed in terms of the worshipping of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and all of these under the umbrella of Tawheed as a worldview, not only from a theological perspective. The part that we were up to, if you recall, some of you may remember, were the theories, the three theories that we came up to: the materialistic theory, and the idealistic theory, and obviously the complete or realistic theory, or what he may refer to as realism or realism. So what are these theories, and what is the suggestion in these theories? Now I'm hoping that Mu'mineen and Mu'minat are doing some reading, so I should ask questions here, and hopefully we'll have the answers so I don't do the talking. But just in brief, inshallah. The materialistic theory is looking at the world from a very materialistic perspective, obviously, as the name goes. So basically not recognizing, and we discussed this much earlier in the very first session, some of you may remember, we had a brief discussion of this, a worldview or a theory that simply sees the world as a world of matter, material. There's nothing beyond that. And that affects, and again, I have to emphasize on this point that when we speak of a worldview, it is an encompassing of every area of human sciences. So when we say monotheistic or Tawhidi worldview, we are referring to a worldview that encompasses the ethics, for instance. So ethics from a monotheistic point of view. We are speaking of a worldview that also encompasses something like economics. Like we're talking about two different things, completely different things, from ethics to economics, okay? Whichever area you look at, the world of science and scientific research, also from a very monotheistic perspective, Tawhidi perspective. So every area of human studies and human research is based on this worldview of Tawheed. So when we when we're looking at, for instance, the materialistic versus the Tawhidi, for instance, a materialistic worldview even affects how they perceive ethics. Okay, a materialistic theory, when they look at ethics, they look at it completely based on actions and reactions and their consequences in this physical material world. Okay, nothing beyond that. And so we said that is very short of explaining the reality of this world, because this world is not only a world of matter. There's no way that we could put a material explanation for emotions, for example. We cannot we cannot explain certain even ethical principles in terms of, for instance, uh, if you recall, we discussed this theory in economics called cost and benefit analysis. And when they study cost and benefit analysis, they literally put a figure, a dollar figure, against everything that happens around us, including human life. Okay, so for instance, if a project is to be assessed, and this project is going to risk some human lives, okay, 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, whatever it is. If the benefits outweigh the cost, then they still think it's a good project. Meaning, if we are going to basically strengthen the economy, and the economy will grow, let's say the country will grow its economy by $1 trillion, and we have to spend $100 billion compensating people and dealing with people's health and sicknesses, and people who are getting sick and those who die, and compensating their families. We have to spend even $500 billion. We're still making $1 trillion, so we're good. That is how they calculate things when they look at the world from a materialistic perspective. Whereas the Islamic, will come to that inshallah, the Islamic way of seeing things is the realistic one, and it is encompassing of that, as well as what we'll read in the idealistic one. So what is the idealistic one? Okay, and what's the issue with it? Idealistic theory, if you have done some reading inshallah, idealistic theory looks at the complete opposite. Okay, so neglects the world of matter, completely neglects it, and focuses on the world of ethics, spirituality, beyond matter. Okay, the soul, for instance. Okay, purification. Complete focus on that. Completely the opposite. However, there's a neglect of the world that we're living in. So let's look at an example to understand perhaps where they fall short, the idealistic theory. Before I say it, maybe some of you want to share a few words. What is the problem with the idealistic theory? So coming back to the materialistic, we said all that matters in the materialistic theory is matter. Okay, individuals, the society, everything is translated into the world of matter, nothing beyond that. Okay, and therefore, you'll find the closest result, or the most applicable result of the materialistic theory is what? If you did your reading, there was a straight conclusion of the Marxist theory. Sorry?
Yeah, Marxist ideology.
Yeah, ideology. So the ideology, Marxism, and their way of looking at the world, the economical system, completely material economic system. So that is the direct result of the materialistic theory. What about the idealistic theory? We said it's a complete opposite. So what's the problem with that? It recognizes the world of ethics, the world of spirituality, and ascension above the world of matter. What is the problem with that?
Fails to recognize that humans also have a physical presence which necessitates fulfilling of the human needs.
Yes, yes, Ahsan. So that's a very, very good point. The main problem with them is the lack of recognition of the fact that human beings are created as a combination of body and soul. Though we are meant to purify and ascend above the world of our physical body, but we're also meant to recognize that we, in this world, we live in this physical world, and we're participating in the physical world that we're living in. So we cannot be oblivious or indifferent of our environment. This is the environment that we're living in. If, for instance, for some of the theorists in the idealistic theory, they may, can anyone suggest what is the closest ideology that is a product of the idealistic theory? Very famous, and in fact, it's actually, although it is part of the Islam, within Islam also, but it's also very much based on the idealistic theory. Indifferent of the Ahsan, Sufism. Okay, Sufism, and what is said to be similar to some other schools of thought in terms of other religious groups. They may have also ideologies that align with that, where we become indifferent to governments, indifferent to economic systems. We completely, according to them, you detach yourself. Okay, you completely detach, and you live in your own world type thing. Okay, you might even go and find yourself a cave, or live away from the people, and just focus on your soul and your ruh, and even neglecting our physical needs, neglecting our the continuation of humanity. For instance, celibacy. Do we have celibacy in Islam? Or is it prescribed? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, وَرَهْبَانِيَّةً ابْتَدَعُوهَا مَا كَتَبْنَاهَا عَلَيْهِ. Rahbaniya is this the concept of completely detaching oneself from anything to do with this world, and any pleasures, or like barely, okay, we eat and drink, no problem, we have to, but not even indulging in any other pleasures, including not even getting married, for example. Okay, and why? Because we're dedicating ourselves for the Lord, for instance. That is in Islam, that's erroneous. Okay, that is not, and whether it be a Muslim group who prescribes it, or a Christian group, or any other group for that matter. Okay, we have to recognize that we're living in this world. We have our physical needs, and we do get affected by our environment. So we cannot be indifferent. What social system, what political system, what ethical system, all of these things, what government, all of these things we have to participate in and try and improve the circumstances, because that is where ourselves and our children and generations to come would be living. So this complete neglect of the environment and the physical world that we're living in is the issue with the idealistic theory. It's the name again gives it. It's idealistic. Okay, it's not real. We're not living in heaven. We're living on earth, and we're this combination of body and soul, and we have the needs, and we have to address our physical needs and the physical world that we are bound by its limitations, the needs, and so on. What about the realistic theory? You could also suggest that this would be the Islamic theory, or the monotheistic or Tawhidi worldview. It's based on the Tawhidi worldview. It actually is a combination of the two. It recognizes that we are made of the matter, and so we have physical needs, we have all that, materialistic needs that we have as the physical body that we are, and but it also recognizes the fact that we also have another dimension. Okay, we're not limited to the physical dimension that we are. We are a combination of the ruh and jasad, the body and the soul, and therefore we have to pay attention to both of them. Okay. In fact, in Islam, our acts of worship are pretty much every aspect of our worship is a combination of the two. For example, when we look at, for instance, our prayers, daily prayers, okay? Our daily prayers are not just a matter of connecting with God and speaking to Him, okay? So can I just, sit down, close my eyes, and start reciting Fatiha, for example, okay? And call this my daily prayer. Would that suffice? As a Muslim, that doesn't suffice. Okay, I have to stand up, I have to bow, I have to go to ruku', I have to do sujood, I have to do all these things. Yeah, that's part of the physical aspect of my daily prayers. Okay, now some, unfortunately, they're stuck in the physical part. Yeah, so when they pray, some of us, unfortunately, we just pay attention to the physical movements, and the words are even autopilot mode. Okay, we don't even pay attention to the words. We don't even know what we're saying. So some have that. But if we look at how salat is meant to be, it is both. It is the physical part with the physical aspects of it, and it is also the spiritual part and the spiritual connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, recognition of the fact that we are also we are a combination of body and soul. Similarly, even preparation for salat, wudu. Okay, and I think we discussed this before. If I do everything about the wudu without the niyyah of wudu, it doesn't count, does it? What if I go and do everything? I mean, one would say, okay, how would you do wudu without the niyyah of wudu? Okay, let's look at another example. I submerge myself in a swimming pool. Okay, let's say somebody needed ghusl. Okay, ghusl al-janaba, ghusl al-hayd, whatever it is. Okay, they needed ghusl, wajib ghusl, and they submerge themselves. They go diving into the swimming pool, but they don't make an intention. Does that count for a ghusl? It does not count for a ghusl. Why? Because the niyyah is not there. The mind, the heart, the connection, okay, the spiritual connection is not there. It's only a physical act, and it does not count. So our ibadat are a combination. Yes, we are doing the ibadah with our body. When we do sawm, okay, sawm is what? An act of worship, obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by doing what? By abstaining from certain things that are normally permissible, okay? Physical. So far, there are no words. Do we have to say anything for sawm? It's not salat. I don't even need to have to say the niyyah verbally. Okay, so I start my day by not eating and making the niyyah in my mind. Okay, and I end the day with finishing that and breaking my fast. So what happened beyond the physical world, beyond the body, starving and so on? Oh, there's nothing to say, okay, there's some recitation, that recitation is the ibadah part. No, it's the actual fasting. It's the actual abstination of food and drink and whatever else. So what is it that is ibadah? It's that state of mind, okay? Because without that state of mind that I'm fasting qurbatan ilallah, it doesn't count, yeah? If I don't have that intention, if I don't eat all day, and starting from the break of dawn until sunset, Maghrib, I don't eat anything, I don't do anything that invalidates sawm, but I don't have the niyyah of qurbatan ilallah. Does it count? It doesn't count. Okay, so it is our ibadat are a combination. The realistic theory is the most Islamic theory, recognizing the body and recognizing the soul. it also, one of the important things about the realistic theory is that it promotes one to work for both and study both, learn about both. Okay? If we are under one of the two, idealistic versus the materialistic, all that it's doing, we are only focused and thinking and studying and understanding one of the two. Okay? So let's say somebody who is under the idealistic worldview or theory, they're focused on ruh. They want to understand the ruh. They want to understand the spirituality and so on. There's no place for mathematics, for example. There's no place for biology for them. Okay, there's no place for it because the intention is to detach. Okay, Islam says no. You got to do both. Okay, if somebody is doing the materialistic, focuses on the body, biology, mathematics, and so on, doesn't do this. On the other hand, a realistic worldview promotes both. And that's why, for instance, when we look at someone like Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, we'll find that the Imam was a pioneer and a teacher in all these fields. It's not just one of them. Okay? He teaches some of his students to focus on biology, some of them to focus on chemistry. Okay, the father of chemistry is a direct student of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. He teaches some of them to focus on studying the universe and the galaxies and the stars and so on. And then he teaches some of his students the highest levels of spirituality. So from one end of the spectrum to the other end, and he teaches all of them. So a realistic worldview, it actually promotes education in all of these levels. Just like we focus on understanding our body, we focus on understanding our soul. It's the health of the body. I mean, it's a known statement. What do they say? Healthy body, healthy mind, healthy body, or the other way around? Yeah, healthy body, healthy mind. Yeah. So if you have the Arabic saying is al-aql salim fil jism salim. A good intellect is in a good body. Okay. If your body is healthy, your mind is healthy. So healthy body, healthy mind, whichever way you put it. But there's a direct correlation between the health of our physical body and the health of our spiritual mind and our heart. Spiritual heart, not the physical heart, not the the muscle in our chest. So that's a very big advantage of, again, the realistic theory, which is in fact endorsed by Islam. It encompasses not just the personal journey, but also the collective society. Okay, so a realistic theory doesn't just see an individual. In an idealistic theory, one may focus on themselves only, seclude themselves from the world, whereas in a realistic theory, we are part of this society. We belong to this society. If my ancestors decided, if let's say, one of my ancestors decided that I want to focus on my spirituality. I don't want to even get married because that's going to affect my spirituality. Huh? Would I be sitting here? Any of us would be sitting here if our ancestors decided to do that to us. So our mere existence is a product of people who did pay attention to some some aspects of the materialistic existence or presence of our physical body and needs. And we continue through that. So a realistic theory or the Islamic theory recognizes the society just as it recognizes the individual. And through that, we will find that one last aspect I want to share about this. And I would like to hear your comments or maybe questions, clarifications on these theories. The last point regarding the realistic theory or what we would consider as the Islamic theory under the umbrella of Tawhidi worldview, is that it promotes equality. It actually does promote equality. There's an emphasis here by Allama Shaykh Mutahhari to distinguish between similarity and equality. A very important concept that I urge mu'minin and mu'minat to pay attention to. It actually solves many of the controversies against Islam. Okay, so Islam and the realistic theory promotes equality, does not promote similarity. And that is because it recognizes the fact that we are not just the soul, but we are also the body. If we were to look at the soul of a child and the soul of a mother and the soul of the father, male, female, is all the same. Yeah? So if we only look at the soul, we should suggest what some are suggesting nowadays, equality to the point of similarity. Men and women, they have to be treated the same in every regard. So a woman is expected to work just as hard as men in the society, in today's society, and just as much as men, okay, regardless of her role, regardless of the limitations, physical limitations that may exist. They even try and deny those physical limitations. You know, some of the theories, feminism and so on, at some point, I don't know if today they're still doing that, but at some point they were denying that there's any difference. And they suggested even if there is a physical difference in terms of strength and so on, they suggested that that is caused by evolution, okay, in the sense that you know, by women were not expected to do certain things, and therefore their body did not develop in certain areas and so on. Again, this is under a very materialistic worldview, whereas under a monotheistic, Tawhidi worldview, we recognize the creation, therefore we recognize the wisdom of the creation and the creator, and we recognize differences. We do not suggest any level of inequality or injustice. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-adlul mutlaq. He is the absolute justice. Okay, He is the just, no questions, no level of oppression. Inna Allah la yadlimu mithqala dharratin. Does not oppress not even the tiniest possible aspect. Nothing. There's no oppression in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, there is equality, but there is, again, with a realistic worldview, we recognize differences, and therefore there cannot be similarity. Okay, so that's very important to understand. And it allows for, obviously, through that, the fact that we're not similar, there's diversity. Okay, and there's also, you know, hierarchies in the society. Not everybody is going to be a manager. Okay, not everybody is going to be a doctor. Some people are not fit to be managers. Some people are not fit to be doctors, and that doesn't give the manager or the doctor any higher value. Okay, in the eyes of God, janitor and the teacher and the manager and everybody, if they're doing their duty, they're fulfilling their role, therefore they're equal, and they could be reaching the highest levels. There's we have a very, very nice story, which is said to be, if I'm not mistaken, by one of our Gnostics, Nokhodaki, if I'm not mistaken, who was very, very famous about 60 or 70 years ago, maybe almost, yeah, I would say 3/4 of a century, probably 75 years ago or so. Very, very famous he was at the time, that many of our great scholars, most of them have passed away, but many of them would go to him to gain spirituality and lessons. He narrates of a shoemaker. You know, a shoemaker, the one who fixes the shoes. Okay, and he says that that particular shoemaker had reached in the journey of spirituality a higher position than himself. He himself talks of this individual. He said that this person had purified so much that he reached a higher position than himself in terms of spirituality and nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the goal of our ibadah is what? When we pray, when we fast, when we do anything, any ibadah, we go to Hajj, what do we make the intention? Qurbatan ilallah, yeah, nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If somebody in a position of a shoemaker or a businessman in a store, there's one of the famous contemporary scholars, he says, I dedicated so many weeks of my life trying to do all the things that would allow me to meet the Imam of the time, Ajalullah Ta'ala Farajah Sharif. So many things. And the intention was to meet the Imam. And it did not happen until eventually somebody came to me and said to me, Ya Sheikh, you have been trying, you wanted to meet the Imam, you go to the marketplace and you go to the store, you ask about this particular shopkeeper, and you go to his store, and you will meet the Imam there. You sit and watch and wait, and you will meet the Imam. So eventually he went there, and he witnessed, I don't want to take too much of your time, he witnessed when he found the man, he was an average, businessman in his store doing business. Okay. However, he witnessed something there that he learned that this is different. A lady was trying to sell her some copper pot, and she was desperate to sell it because she needed the money. So she was asking for a particular amount. Let's say she needed $30, okay? And she was being offered $20. Anywhere she went, she was offered $20, just to bring the story closer to our mind. That's particular figure. So eventually, she came to this shopkeeper, and he was in the same business. So she asked him. He weighed, he did his calculations. He said, I can pay you 60. I'm giving you examples. I can pay you 60. She said, I only needed 30. He said, no, I can pay you 60 because I can sell it for 70. I'll still make money, and you get your money. And so the man asked him, that scholar who was trying to meet the Imam for so long, he said to him, everybody was offering her so little. And he said, it doesn't matter what others are offering. We do the right thing by people. And I had, I wanted to be as ethical as I can be. So he realized all it took for this man to be an individual who regularly meets the Imam, regularly, not just regularly, and he becomes the a place of appointment for the Imam to come and see the people. All it took is for him to be an honest tradesman, in a city, in a bazaar that everybody is trying to take advantage of people. He contradicts all of them, the system, and he maintains decency and honesty in his transactions, and that's all it took. So qurbatan ilallah, it is not about what position you take in the society, and this is also one of the things that the realistic worldview or realistic theory based on the Tawhidi worldview recognizes equality and recognizing these classes of different people having different positions in the society, but all being equal, not similar again, equal in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah.
Someone made a comment that
Sure.
feminism currently is about agency, where individual women can choose what is right for them given their unique circumstances instead of being told what they can or should do.
Mhm, mhm. Again, yeah. So feminism has gone through so many stages. Okay, the initial, I mean, the name. Often we say in Arabic we have a statement. It's kalimatu haqqin yuradu biha batil. It's a true statement, but the intention is not necessarily true. You know, it's false. I'm not suggesting that the statement that was made, please, is a false statement. Most of the suggestions made by theorists in today's world that are mostly theories based on materialistic theories, most of them are, although they may make beautiful sense on surface, but in reality, the intention is not very pure. With the notion that women should be given the right to, do certain things and come to the workplace. The whole idea was, at the beginning of the Renaissance and Industrial Revolution, was maximizing production. Okay, to maximize production, they even introduced the long day schooling. Okay, long day schooling is a byproduct of the Renaissance. Everybody comes to work. Even they turned schools into production lines. And training for production. All it was basically to maximize production, which is to maximize the richness of the rich. That's the capitalist system and how they started. So under that, they made many theories that support that helps that. Okay, so how do we get the woman into the workplace? They're equal. Okay, yes, we know they're equal, but they're not similar. Okay. One of the things I remember back in Sydney, one of the governments was being very proud about is that they brought the woman into workplace after, postnatal, after birth. They brought them back an average of, let's say they made it an average of 6 months, okay, or 2 months. Their goal was 2 months, okay. So they established childcare facilities. Government pays mothers who are working to send their kids to these childcare facilities in order to make sure that women go back to the workplace in a very short period right after giving birth. What are we doing essentially? Breaking the family altogether. There's no family bond. There's no bond between mothers and their children. The children are spending more money, more time with their teachers in the childcare centers than they're spending time with their parents. Dropped off from 8 o'clock in the morning, picked up at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, so that the mother can go 9 to 5 and do her, full-time job. That's not, to me, that's not pride. That's not nothing to be proud about. That's actually something to be ashamed of. That we're not offering, the economy is not offering, that choice of staying at home and being a mother for at least the first couple of years of the life of this child when he needs nursing and attention, motherly attention, okay? Dumping them into these facilities, and then obviously it suits certain companies like Nestle and the rest to sell their formula. That's part of the, again, not just maximize production, and you need to what? Maximize consumption, the consumerist society, okay? All of this is, again, all these theories, they sound good, they look good on the surface, but when we dig deep into them, so I cannot comment completely on this particular, on the most current feminist theory and what they're trying to do. It needs further analysis and studies, and but we still maintain that the Islamic worldview is complete. Okay, is a Tawhidi worldview is complete, and it is the worldview that does not lack Obviously with proper analysis and studies of the Tawhidi worldview and Islamic worldview, and the current needs of the society and advancement and so on. But yeah, it is not lacking for us to go and, if we can learn something from them, by all means, as long as it does not contradict our principles and teachings. Otherwise, in many cases, we'll find later on that there was an agenda behind some of their theories and work, and it was nothing but to, again, maximize their profit and their gains. Bless you. Yarhamkumullah. I hope that addresses that comment.
Yeah, they were mainly sharing just
Sure.
how the concept has evolved over time, and
Sure.
I'm sure a lot more can be spoken about on this topic.
Yes, sure.
But the other comment that was stated was, given the purpose of life is to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that can be reached regardless of the type of work someone does, what advice would you have for, the youth of today trying to decide what to do in terms of work or study? How should they decide what to aim for, or does it not matter?
Ahsan. That's a very good question and reflection, actually. There are definitely preferred and recommended careers in Islam, and there are careers that are not so recommended, not so preferred. However, we cannot say that everybody should do the same thing. Okay, again, a realistic worldview looks at the society and its needs, and therefore recognizes the necessity for people to go into different roles and fill those roles. In Islam, we have something called wajib kifai. Okay, meaning it's an obligatory act, or some obligation that it is on everybody until somebody fulfills that. Okay, washing the body of the mayyit, deceased, as a job that you would get paid for, is actually makruh. Okay, it's not recommended. Now you might say, but that's wajib. Okay, it's a wajib kifai, is it not? It is wajib kifai, but that is said to, if it is one's job and they're getting paid for it, it hardens the heart. Okay, it brings about qaswat al-qalb, for example. So it is not recommended. One has to do it. Now, in this society, for example, in most societies, but especially living in the West, there are only a few people that end up doing it, and so they have to do it every time. And they may have to be given a gift so that they can actually sustain. Okay, so are they doing something bad? No, they're doing something wajib kifai. Okay, but it still has that element that they have to be aware of. Okay, a job like a butcher. Okay, a butcher's job is another makruh job. It's not recommended. Okay, now one might say, but we still need to eat, and not eating meat for more than 40 days, and in the hadith causes madness. Yuritul junun. It causes a level of madness. So it's not good to abandon meat for more than 40 days. So if nobody does it, what happens? So we, in Islam, we recognize the need for people to go into different fields, and that happens typically naturally. Okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives different people different skills, and based on the skills that He gives them, based on the abilities and skills and the likes and their what is their drive, they go into different fields. And so we need to fulfill every field. What is important in Islam is to be the best at whatever we do. There's a hadith that says, رحم الله امرؤ عمل عملا فأتقنه. God has mercy on a person when they do something, they perfect it. They do it well. So it's important that we, whichever field, now our youth, for example, do we need every single one of them to go and become a scholar, for example. Okay? It is obligatory for everyone to study a level of religion that they deal with. Okay, everybody has to study about their prayers, fasting, halal and haram, with the things that they deal with on a daily basis. That is an obligation. If one goes to do banking, for example, they need to learn the rules about banking, what is allowed and what's not allowed. If somebody wants to do stock, they have to learn about what is allowed and what is not allowed, and so on. But does everyone need to learn everything about everything? Okay, no, that's not the case. Yes, our scholars, especially our jurists, they have to learn the rules about everything. Okay, they have to do an analytical study of every single subject in Islamic law, and once they complete that, then they are called mujtahid. Okay, before that they may be even mujtahid mutajazzi, partial mujtahid, but they're not complete mujtahid until they do the whole book of Islamic law, and they have a verdict, their own verdict on every single subject. But does everyone have to do that? No, of course not. Yes, there is a recommendation, and in fact, Quran speaks about it, that from every group of people, some have to go and study, and then they go back to their people and remind them, okay, uh, teach them, remind them, and so on. So every field is important. Islam recognizes that. Be a pioneer in whatever you do. Be the best at whatever you do. If you're going to study engineering, be the best. Medicine, be the best. If you're going to work as a simple landscaping things, okay, be the best at that. Okay, perfect your work. Do it best, and that is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. That we can do it qurbatan ilallah, whatever we do. Okay, beautification of the world, purification, cleaning, building, whatever we do, be the best at whatever we do. I hope that answers.
Right. So I think the question also was in balancing it in the sense of getting closeness to Allah, right? So is there some fields? I think maybe you already addressed
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So the follow-up discussion question, or in general, is should there be a drive to climb the ladder? You know how there's a corporate world where you are starting out in a certain position to get promotions and to get additional, so should people be content with their position, or
should they
or should they strive to climb up the ladder?
Well, if climbing up the ladder means they're perfecting their work and doing their work best, then they should have that drive. But if it means that everybody's striving to be a manager when we need the layman, then that's not necessarily the how it should be, because one should know what they're best at, and allow those who are better than them to do the job that requires, more skills, for example. We have an example. I'll put the theory, and I'll go to the example. So if in a workplace one is let's say we have a bricklayer, okay, a bricklayer versus the engineer who's designing the building, okay. If the bricklayer realizes that he's better than the engineer, he has more skills than the engineer, for instance, just for argument's sake. Okay, yes, have the inspiration to climb up that ladder and try and get into that. Try and get into that level of alaikum salam wa rahmatullah, that level of the business, and try and fulfill that role. But if by doing so they're taking the space of somebody who does it better than them, okay, because sometimes that inspiration to climb up the ladder means that they are competing and fighting over a position, for the money, for the position, or whatever it is, for the status, despite knowing that he does it better than me or she does it better than me. Okay, that's not Islamic. Okay, so if there's a hadith that says God has mercy on those who know their level or the limit and they stay there. عرف قدر نفسه فوقف عنده. They know their value where they are and they stay there. They don't try and claim what is not theirs and what the level that they don't belong to. Okay, um, I'll give you an example and a real example. An example that I often tell people. Let's say you have adhan. Okay, it's good to encourage everybody, but who should do the adhan? It should be the one who does it best. Okay. That's some people they want to take that position regardless. Okay, but when you have the best muaddin, then you allow the best muaddin to give the adhan. Okay, same thing with many things. Know your level and know respect the ones who have more skills, more knowledge, and one of our great maraja that happened to be at the time of another one of our Maraja. The teacher was initially in the position of leading the Bahth al-Kharij, the highest level of debate or discussion in the Islamic seminary, which normally leads to ijtihad, and through that the mujtahid uh, refines their thoughts and their opinions, and eventually they come to a verdict on every topic. The teacher who was leading the discussion came earlier one day to his class and saw a group of students having a discussion, a private discussion, and he realized that one of those who was leading that small group discussion was much better than him. He realized, because he had the knowledge, he had the understanding, he had the principles of jurisprudence, and he realized that this individual who was in his circle as one of the students is doing a better job than him. So he asked him, after observing him a few times, he asked him to lead the discussion from then on, and he said, "You should be the marja, not me." Realizing that, okay, it's not about a position and status, it's about who does it best. If he does a better job, then let him lead that discussion. And this is a great example of our maraja following the teachings of Ahlul Bayt. It's not about positions of power and the money or any of those things, or status, social status. Rather, it's wajib kifaya. I'm fulfilling a need, and if somebody can do it better than me, I would allow them to do it. I hope that addresses that question.
Yes. We can continue, or there's
Any
still
further?
another comment?
No problem, that's fine.
All right, so I think one other comment is that you mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives different drives and abilities to different people. Does this statement hold true for men alone, or do women also have different drives and abilities?
Same.
So, for example, if one man is better suited to be a farmer and one a banker, could it also be true that one woman can also be a better farmer and another a better banker, or are women created more uniformly than men, where they all have the same drives and abilities? So, again, I don't think she is looking for a response to this. Just maybe it's not meant as a question for a response.
No, they're obviously they're the same in the sense that each party have their drives, and within men, there are men who are more designed to be managers, others more designed to be unmanaged by others, farmer, banker, and whatever else. And the same thing applies to women. What is different is Islam does recognize the difference between men and women in creation and in terms of the physiology, biology, and so on, and therefore the roles in Islam are different in general between men and women. So there are certain fields or areas that Islam does not encourage women to get involved, and it encourages men to take care of those areas. Similarly, there are areas that it encourages women to take care of them and not the men. I don't know if that was part of the question, but that's something that I wanted to clarify. I hope that addresses that, inshallah. The next topic we have is the levels of shirk. Now, we spoke about levels of Tawhid, if you recall, last week, I think it was. And we spoke about Tawhid al-Dhat, al-Sifat, al-Af'al, and Tawhid al-Ibadah. Essence, attributes, the actions, and Tawhid in worship. The opposite of that is obviously, the opposite of Tawheed is shirk. Yeah? So, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ. You know, this is Tawheed. And then the opposite is that إِنَّ الشِّرْكَ لَظُلْمٌ عَظِيمٌ. Shirk is a great oppression. So the right path and the just path in terms of a human in their relationship with God is to recognize His oneness. And we said when we recognize His oneness, we recognize His oneness in the universe. So our worldview becomes a worldview of a muwahhid. And the opposite of that is one who has the worldview of a mushrik, one who does not see God as the only drive behind the entire universe. He sees other forces to be equally as important or to be partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that happens on various levels. So some, they have their tawheed, their shirk, in the essence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is in terms of tawheed, the highest level of tawheed is which one? The basic level of tawheed is tawheed al-Dhat, yeah, essence. And the next level up is when we recognize that His attributes and His essence are one. Yeah, Kamalu. Last week was it last week or the week before that we discussed the sermon of Imam Ali alayhi salam? So in one of the sessions, if you recall, we discussed the sermon of Imam Ali alayhi salam, where he spoke of Tawheed being stages. One of the stages is when you get to a level in Tawheed that you negate the sifat. Yahu, ya man la huwa illa hu. There's nothing. Attributes, all of that is part of the essence. You cannot say He is Rahim, He is Alim as separate thing. No, one, only one. Okay, so one is Tawheed al-Dhat. The next level is Tawheed al-Sifat. The next level of what is what? Tawheed al-Af'al. Yeah, so we recognize the fact that everything in the universe happens through the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing happens. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Nothing happens in the world without God allowing it. No, God's power in there. Okay, it's His power. Who makes the world go around? Or what? You know, some people say money. Yeah, no. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God makes the world operate. It's operating, it's revolving, it's evolving, it's continuing to exist through Him. Okay? This is a level of Tawheed where anything that happens, absolutely anything that happens, we see God in it. Anything that we see God in it. Okay? I mentioned the hadith multiple times from Imam Ali alayhi salam. He says, I never looked at anything except that I saw God before, after, and within it. قبله وبعده ومعه. Okay? Before, after, within Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is Tawheed al-Af'al. Then that leads to Tawheed in Ibadah. Obedience and worship to no one and nothing other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On a conscious level and on a subconscious level. This is where we get to rid ourselves from ash-shirk al-khafi. Many of us may be a muwahhid, on a theoretical level, but in a practical level, we may have some level of shirk wal-'iyadhu billah. That's why the ayah says, وَمَا يُؤْمِنُ أَكْثَرُهُم بِاللَّهِ إِلَّا وَهُمْ مُشْرِكُونَ. Most of the people who believe in God, they have some level of shirk, except that they are mushrik. Mushrik on some level of shirk. Okay. Now coming to the shirk. Okay. Shirk is also levels. When we come to the levels of shirk, it's the opposite, although we're going to start in the same order, but it's the opposite in terms of the highest and the lowest. In the Tawhid, the lowest level was the level of that. And then the highest level is Tawhid in the Ibadah. Yeah? In the Shirk, the worst level is which one? The most obvious one. Yeah? Which is the essence, that. You see? The worst one becomes the shirk in the essence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's the most obvious, okay? Whereas we have other levels, so we'll come to them. So what is shirk in the that of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the essence of God? Polytheism in the essence of God. What does it mean? Very, as the name goes.
Rejecting God's attributes of being sovereign.
So we spoke, if you remember, in the worldview, we spoke of dualism and we spoke of polytheism. Okay, dualism or polytheism are shirk in the essence of God. Okay, meaning like obvious. Okay, where there is the theory that there are two forces: the force of good and the force of evil. God is the force of good, and there's the force of evil, and they both are equally strong, or they're similar level of strength, and they're fighting each other. Okay, this is what dualism. Okay, that is shirk in the essence of God. Okay, another one is polytheism, that multiple forces are in charge of this universe. Okay, multiple deities, gods, whatever you want to call them. The god of the wind, the god of the rain, I don't know, the god of the sun, the god of, I don't know, different things, and they're working independently. Okay, that's why some people, it's in the old days, when they look at the universe, they think it's chaotic, in the sense that, okay, when we want it to rain, it doesn't rain, right? When we badly want the rain, and the grasses nowadays, yes, it's happening now in Florida this time of the year, no rain. Okay, everything's drying up. I don't know about you, but I went away for 2 weeks now. My baby trees are dead. But Alhamdulillah. So basically, some people see that as multiple forces almost. Okay, the fact that, okay, when we need the rain, it's not coming. Now the wind is coming, ruining everything for us. So that believing in multiple forces in charge that are working independently. Okay, now we know, as believers, as monotheists, we know that all of these things are synced well together. And when insan ruins things, nature rebels against insan. Okay, ولو أن أهل القرى آمنوا واتقوا لأنزلنا عليهم بركات من السماء. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, is the people of the cities were to be believers and to guard and consider their duty to God, we would bring down upon them all sorts of blessings from the heavens. They wouldn't see the strong winds, they wouldn't see the things that would destroy their livelihood and so on. No, they'll have all the blessings. Okay, so anything that goes wrong, essentially there is some level of disobedience and rebelliousness in the society that's leading to problems. ظهر الفساد في البر, clear in the Quran. ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس. All sorts of mischief is appearing on the land and in the oceans because of what people earned, through the earning of the hands of the people. بما كسبت أيدي الناس. They do the wrong thing, and nature rebels against them. Now, this again, we spoke. This is when we have the shirk on the level of the essence of God, in the sense that some suggest that each force is separate gods. Walayadu billah, multiple. Okay. Now, a question. Now, this is not necessarily within the discussion or the. Would you consider the Christians who believe in Trinity, would they fall in this level of shirk or not? Believing in Trinity, would it be considered Tawhid, shirk in the essence of God, or would it not? That's a is.
I could be wrong, but I would say yes.
You would say it is?
I would say it is because
Okay.
technically they're saying you can split God into three or three in one or whatever version you heard.
Yes, yes. But then at the same time, now here, this is subject to, this is a controversy that could be, we could go on and discuss it, but I just wanted to get your minds working. What about the fact that they say we believe in one God?
Well, they believe in a God that can split himself into three.
Yes, so they still consider themselves monotheistic, theistic in the sense that they believe that they believe in the one God. So their claim is that that's their claim. Their claim is that they believe in the one God, but the one God has different aspects. Correct? He can split into three or something. So that's again, this is I cannot say yes or no, but it's something to consider. Okay, because then you could take them to the next level of shirk, and which is the shirk in the sifat, not the that, but the sifat. What are the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So this is where, if you remember when we said Imam Ali alayhi salam says in his sermon, من من وصفه فقد حده ومن حده فقد عده ومن عده فقد نده. So those levels that he has, whoever describes God, then he has limited. حده ومن فقد جزأه. Okay, he has limited him. Then he has divided him. Okay, because he says لشهادة كل موصوف أنه غير الصفة, because every attribute and everything that is described and everything that describes are two different things. And you remember we said, for instance, when we say Ali is Kareem, okay, if I say Ali is Kareem, I'm not saying Ali is Karam. Ali is generosity. I'm saying Ali has generosity. So generosity is one thing and Ali is another thing, correct? Whereas when we say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala huwa al-Kareem, he is the Ainul Karam. He is the essence of Karam. Okay, and the Karam is in the essence of God. There's not two things. You see how it is different? So in Tawheed, in the Shirk, in the Sifat, is where some may split that. Okay, they may say, okay, I shared the statement from one of the Imams of one of the schools of thought, not in the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, obviously. Malik ibn Anas, when he was asked to describe God, he said, Allah fi sama wa ilmuhu fi kulli makan. God is in the heavens and his knowledge is everywhere. Essentially, what did he do? He has two gods now. Yeah? He has the God as the essence, and God as and the knowledge of God is another separate thing. Separate entity exists everywhere. God in his essence is in the heavens. Limited to the heavens, not everywhere. His knowledge is everywhere. So like a whole complete confused thing. Now, would he become a mushrik in the essence of God? No. You see what I mean? If somebody thinks of God and its attributes as two different things, or as separate things, okay, misunderstands God to think that His mercy is sometimes God is merciful. Let's say somebody thinks that sometimes God is merciful, sometimes God is not merciful. Okay, does anyone here think that way? Inshallah, no one does. Have you ever thought of it? Do you know of anyone who thinks, sometimes God is merciful, but sometimes He's not acting merciful? Walayadu billah. We seek refuge to God from such a thought. Yeah. But that thought itself, yeah, you might say, okay, somebody thinks that way. He's not a mushrik in the sense that he has not denied the oneness of God. He still recognizes the oneness of God. But by saying that, he has done shirk on the level of sifat. What is the problem? Sometimes it's merciful, sometimes not. Anyone? What is the issue with that? I'd like to hear from somebody. What is the issue if we say God, sometimes He's merciful, sometimes He's not merciful? What is the problem? Yes, He's merciful all the time, but what is the issue with it with regards to Tawhid? Ahsan. So we're making His mercy separate from Him. Okay, we're separating His mercy because if His essence is merciful, then He's merciful all the time. Cannot be sometimes merciful, sometimes not merciful. Okay, all knowing, meaning what? Is there anything that He doesn't know at any given point? Like hidden anything? Never. Not possible. Okay? Omnipotent. Has power over everything. Meaning what? Is there anywhere that God's power, God's power and ability is short? That all of a sudden, remember what we said, the dualism? Okay, all of a sudden the power of evil is, overpowers overpowers God, and now God is not able to control the situation. No, this is no way that could happen. Okay, not for a second. Okay, so Tawheed as-Sifat, it recognizes that He's one with His attributes, one. It is not separable. Okay, Shirk in the Sifat is something like this. Okay, something like God, He creates, okay, and then Him and His creation become one. Do you see that? So is the Holy Spirit created or is it the creator? According to the believers in Trinity, maybe Sister Laura can help us here, but my understanding is the Holy Spirit is created by God, just like His Son is created by Him. Yes? Okay, so now they separated the creation from they see it as a separate entity. Next thing they say, they're one. That is a problem. Okay, so that could be a problem in the sifat. It could be argued that it's a problem in the essence. It's shirk in the essence. But it could also be argued that it's a shirk in the attributes. Okay, the created and the creator, two different things. Okay, they cannot become one. We cannot make them one. All of a sudden, unite God with His creation. Like the theory of Wahdat al-Wujud, if it is what is said to be. Because some argue that Wahdat al-Wujud is not what people understand. It's something different. That's not our discussion. Some suggest that it has been misunderstood. But if somebody believes that the creation of God is part of God, wal-'ayadu billah, that is shirk. Yeah? To believe that the creation and the creator is one is a problem. Okay? And it could be argued that that could go as far as shirk in the essence of God, not just in the attributes of God. Although it could be, again, the argument could be also that it's shirk on the attributes, regardless. So the next level of shirk is shirk in the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is a lower level of shirk. When it comes to Tawhid, Tawhid in the Sifat is a higher level of Tawhid. When it comes to shirk, shirk in the Sifat is a lower level of shirk. And another lower level is shirk in the Af'al. Okay? The example, I often use this example, many of you are familiar if you've been with us. The ayah in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, whenever a good thing happens, they say this is from God. And whenever a bad thing that happens, they say this is from you, meaning from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because you're present with us, bad things are happening. You are bringing bad omen. Is that what they say? Omen? Bad omen? Yeah. You're bringing bad luck for us. Okay? So anything, سيئة وإن تصبهم سيئة يقولوا هذه من عندك. Whenever a bad thing happens to them, they say, this is from you, Ya Rasulullah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ كُلٌّ مِّنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. Tell them everything is from God. This is what Tawheedul Af'al. Okay? And shirk in the Af'al is to say, this is from God and this is from other than God. Okay? This action. Okay? To think that anyone can do anything independent of God. That's shirk in the Af'al. Believes in the one God, believes that God and his attributes are all one, but comes to the actions, thinks that somebody can do something independent of God. Okay? Even an evil person.
Or someone who sees themselves as self-sufficient.
Ahsan, yeah. Somebody who thinks that, I can do it. أُوتِيتُ عَلَى عِلْمٍ عِنْدِي. Qarun, he says, I had the knowledge. I became rich because I know how. I had all the skills and the knowledge. I think he was in masonry, in building. And so he was extremely skilled. And so he became extremely wealthy. And so he thought, well, I am the one who worked hard, had, gained the skills and worked hard and earned all this money. And so basically denying the fact that it is all through God. So many people work so hard, much harder than you and I do, and they're still struggling. And some people don't work as hard and they have it easy. So who is the sustainer? Somebody came to Imam Ali alayhi salam. He said, why is it that sometimes we see some people who are very naive and they're very rich, and we see some people who are very smart and they're still poor? The Imam said, this is a good reminder from God that sustenance is from him. And there's a poem from the Imam about this. كم عاقل في الناس كم جاهل في الناس يؤتى عيشه رغدا ويحرم كيس. There are so many people who are very ignorant. They get their sustenance easily, and the one who's smart is deprived. Okay, it happens. I've seen that, very frequently. From a rich person who's very simple-minded, not very sophisticated, and you have very smart people who are, struggling. Rich, simple-minded people even becoming presidents of certain countries in the world, and you have the smartest people again struggling to gain any position or status or wealth or anything. So again, it's a reminder. So shirk in the af'al is to think that something is happening independent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything. Can anyone give us an example?
Example of?
Shirk on the level of the af'al.
So in other words, nothing happens in this world unless Allah allows it.
Exactly.
So how would you explain something that's bad? So Allah allows it?
Okay, so that is whenever something bad happens, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed the free will. Yes? So He allowed the free will. Actually, now that you brought this, I think we discussed it, but just a good reminder. If you recall the ayah I just recited, قُلْ كُلٌّ مِّنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. Say everything is from God. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains in the following ayah, He explains. He says, whatever is good is from God, and whatever is bad is from your own hands. Tell the people.
But He allows it to happen.
Exactly. So from God, in the sense that without His power, nothing could have happened. From God, in the sense that a murderer, if he is murdering, if God did not give him the power, he couldn't do it. Okay? Now, why did God give him the power? That is part of the free will that He created the universe in this way. Okay? He gave the free will and He allowed things to happen in through the means. Okay? بأسبابها. Things are happening through their means, and therefore I have been given sometimes God intervenes, yes. That's when we call it miracles, although everything is a miracle. Everything that's happening is a miracle from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we don't recognize it as a miracle because we see the natural means that are happening all the time. When there's an intervention, that's when we see the miracle. Okay, so a baby is born in the womb of the mother. Isn't that a miracle? Okay, it's a big miracle for those with intellect. A little bit of I don't know if any of you are familiar with the video. It came, I think it's been more than 10 years now. The one who put it together, he did medical imaging, digitalized medical imaging. So I think he won the Nobel Prize or something about it. He had implemented cameras in the womb of a mother, and then using digital imaging, he, using the computers, he made it all colored in 3D. And he basically, with a video, he started from the time that the sperms enter the path until they find the egg, and then they unite with one of them unites with the egg, and the egg fertilizes and starts splitting. And every stage, how it's splitting, and how now one cell becomes the heart and then becomes two cells, and then they twist together, and then they start developing, and they become the heart. And the guy was speaking and speaking, and he kept on saying divinity, divinity. He could not say a few words without speaking of God. Scientist, but he could see God in every stage of that, development. Okay, the embryo and so on. This is a miracle, but most of us don't see that miracle. But when the camel comes from the mountain, the camel of Saleh, the she camel of Saleh, when it comes out of the mountain with a baby, then we see the miracle. That is a miracle. Okay, the rain happening, the hydrologic circle happening, it's all miracles. Okay, we don't see it often, but when there's an intervention, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala causes the water to split, for example, or causes the water to gush out from the rocks, 12 fountains, and things like that. So sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intervenes. But most of the time, He allows things to happen, natural means. Okay, so I decide I'm going to move this, He allows me to do that. Okay, now if I decide to, God forbid, harm somebody with this, He's going to allow it to happen. Okay, that's not because He is allowing. He wants evil. No, He's allowing me to practice my free will, and the power is through Him. I hope that yeah. So that the next level, again, we have the shirk in the essence of God, the shirk in the creation, and how we see God forbid, some may attribute creation, for example, to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then we have shirk in the attributes of God. And finally, we have shirk in the worship. Remember how we said in the Tawhid, the highest level is when we Inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alamin. Everything I do, my worship, my prayers, everything for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tawheed on that level. The opposite of that is when one, God forbid, has shirk on that level. Okay. Now, could be conscious or could be subconscious. What is conscious? Conscious is there's no there's no belief that there is another God, because that would be what? Shirk in the essence of God. There's no belief that there's another creator, okay, or the maintainer, okay. Creator is God, maintainer is God, everything. But the issue is when it comes to obedience, there's obedience to something or someone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is shirk. That is what we read in Surah Yasin. أَلَمْ أَعْهَدْ إِلَيْكُمْ يَا بَنِي آدَمَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا الشَّيْطَانَ. Did I not make a covenant with you, to take a promise from you, O children of Adam, that you do not worship shaitan? إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ. Surely he is for you a clear enemy. So what is ibadah of shaitan? It's obedience. If I obey shaitan, I am worshipping shaitan. If I obey a speaker, Imam Jawad alayhi salam, he has a beautiful hadith. He says, "Man asgha ila natiqin faqad abada." Whoever listens to a speaker, they're worshipping the speaker. How? He says, if he's inviting to worship of God, then he's worshipping God. But if he's inviting to the opposite, then they're worshipping the speaker and obeying him in doing shirk billah. Okay? So somebody is inviting us to do something that's not godly. Okay, and I obey, I listen to them. Why? Because he's my boss at work and my paycheck is through him. What happens then? That is shirk in the ibadah. Yes, shirk in ibadah. I didn't stand on the prayer mat and pray for him, but you did shirk. Wal-'iyadhu billah. You listened to him and did not listen to God. You obeyed him and did not obey God. And that's what God says about the shaitan and the devilish figures, not just shaitan. Shayateen al-jinni wal-ins. Allah ta'budu shaitan. Don't obey him. Don't listen to him. That is shirk in the ibadah. That pretty much sums up our discussion. Any comments, questions?
There's a question in the chat, but I think they mentioned usually the people who say that, the evil is allowed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
The atheists especially, because again, they're seeing this more from a materialistic worldview.
Mm-hmm.
They might suggest that why would God let that happen, the evil? That means there's a deficiency in God. Even allowing the free will for evil to happen is a questioning God's system.
Yeah, so God's system is not complete unless we look at here and the hereafter. Okay, so if we only look at here, there's a problem. There's definitely a problem. We cannot explain the world and explain it and understand it in light of the justice of God if we only look at this world. Okay, the hereafter is a reflection of here. Okay, it's the reality of here. That's the reality. The real life is the hereafter. Okay, so if we look at this world only and we see the death of innocent children by criminals, okay, then there's evil happening here. And how am I going to explain it? Why did God allow it? All these questions will come, okay? And we cannot explain it. Realistically, you cannot explain it if we only look here. Because you could say, okay, it's for the better good, for the society, this, that, and the other. But what about that person, that innocent child that died? Okay, the Imam Hussein alayhi salam, okay, he fulfilled his mission. Okay, and he gave his statements, and the world listened and is continuing to echo his words continuously. But what about the infant child? You see what I mean? If we are to look at this world only, there is a level that we say, why did God allow this to happen? Okay, for that innocent child is an innocent child. Why did that happen to him? Okay, it'll be very difficult to explain, because oftentimes when it comes especially to children, why generally, why is it that human beings, everybody starts questioning things when it happens to innocent children? Because they're considered, unfulfilled dreams. Okay, they still have what we see. They have a life ahead of them. Okay, and we took it away from them. It's a big thing. How are you going to explain it? Unless we see the hereafter. Okay, if we see the other side, then it's a whole different story. All of a sudden, they're already in paradise. And Ja'far al-Tayyar, he loses his arms and he's martyred. The Prophet says he's flying amongst the angels. He's been replaced with wings, flying amongst the angels. If we see that other side, then it's easy to understand and explain, because that evil that occurred, that happened from the hands of the evil doers, is not necessarily evil for the one who received it. You understand what I mean? For the one who received it, Zainab salamullah alayha, what does she say? I saw nothing but beauty. Ma ra'aytu illa jamila. Why? She sees martyrdom for her brother, the highest level of martyrdom. Okay, Sayyidu Shuhada, he became the master of martyrs. Her children became martyrs. So she's seeing all the beauty. Okay, yes, for the evildoer, it's an evil act, no doubt. Okay, and they will face the consequences, the reality of it. They will see it. يوم تجد كل نفس ما عملت من خير محضر وما عملته من سوء تود لو أن بينها وبينه أمدا بعيدا. Whatever good they do, it's there. And whatever evil they wish they were so far from it, that between them and their actions is such a distance, أمدا بعيدا, a long distance in time. They don't want to be part of it, but they cannot detach from it.
Right.
It's their own actions. So when we see the hereafter, it's generally easier to understand. But if we just look at here, we will not be able to explain. I hope that.
Yes. There's one question that was made.
Answering your question about Trinity,
Yeah.
whether we can call that Christian shirk or not shirk.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think since our marja,
Yeah.
Pakistani allowed us to eat their food, so there was an investigator already before saying you can eat their food.
Yeah.
So that cannot be shirk.
Yeah. So yeah.
We are not allowed to do
Yeah.
that shirk.
Ahsan. So that's a good analogy. So if we, yeah. So the comment is regarding whether or not the Ahlul Kitab, the Christians specifically, whether they are considered mushrik in the level of the essence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or not. So the comment is, since our maraja suggests that they are not mushrikeen, they are Ahlul Kitab, they separate them from mushrikeen, therefore they shouldn't be at the level of shirk in the essence of God. Because they say that their hands are pure, their body is pure, whereas the non-kitabi, the people who are polytheists, they typically consider them as impure, or for the sake of obligatory precaution, they're impure, as in as you mentioned, the Hindu and so on. Yes, that's a correct analogy. Based on Quran, there is a clear distinction between the mushrik and Ahlul Kitab. Mushrikeen, referring to those who had the idols, idolaters and so on, and Ahlul Kitab being the Jews and the Christians. There's another argument that comes from the Quran, and it says, لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ ثَالِثُ ثَلَاثَةٍ. Those who say God is the third of a three, of a trinity, are kafir. Okay. Now, kafir is what? For those who are with us.
Denier.
Denier. Very good. Okay. Yeah. So they are denying a level of truth. Okay. It doesn't mean that automatically they fall under the jurisprudential category of kafir, meaning the ones that are considered impure, the ones that were fighting the Prophet and the Prophet had to fight them back, and all of those, that's a different level altogether. And they are denying some truth. One of them is the denying the oneness of God on that level, if it's the level of his attributes and so on. And similar to those who are unappreciative, denying the blessings of God. So he says, وَإِذْ تَأَذَّنَ رَبُّكُمْ لَإِنْ شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ وَلَئِنْ كَفَرْتُمْ. And if you deny, okay, if you are kafir in the ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, deny his blessings, then the torment is severe. Inna adabi lashadid. So again, this ayah does not necessarily suggest that they are kafir or mushrik, and Quran does make that distinction clear. But thank you for that comment. That's yeah, so it's an ongoing discussion. Nevertheless, what we know is that they are different to an average mushrik. Okay, they are kitabi. Yes.
When you said they are different from every mushrik,
Yeah.
there are some college of mushrik.
So of course they do. Some level of shirk they have. Many of us Muslims have levels of shirk. We, وَمَا يُؤْمِنُ أَكْثَرُهُم بِاللَّهِ إِلَّا وَهُم مُشْرِكُونَ. Most people who believe in God, they have a level of shirk, but not the level of shirk that brings them under the category of mushrik and najis. Okay, إِنَّمَا الْمُشْرِكِينَ نَجَسٌ. That is a specific group of mushrik, idolaters, who were continuously fighting the Prophet and so on. They were najis and not allowed to enter Masjid al-Haram after that year. So that is a specific category. But if I believe that money is so important that I sometimes put God's, وَالْعَيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, I put God secondary and money primary, okay, that's a shirk, yes? But that's not a shirk that puts me in that category. So that we have shirk al-khafi, we have shirk al-jali, the clear shirk versus the hidden shirk. Which category? So, but it is a level of shirk for sure. I hope that.
Good question. One more, hopefully, then we can.
Last one.
Yeah, this was here submitted about a few minutes back. So,
no problem.
How do we understand Allah's attributes that He has given us the ability to manifest? Example, He is merciful. He and His mercy are one. He has granted us the ability to depict mercy to one another. But we also have the ability to be cruel then. Is this also given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, although that is not part of his zat?
Yeah. So that's a very good question. When we speak of anyone having certain attributes, it's different to when it's totally different. When we say Fulan Kareem, X is generous, and we say God is generous, we need to understand that these are two different things altogether. God is the essence of generosity. Okay? X or Y or Z, they have some level of generosity, okay, that is inspired and taught by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but does not make them anywhere near the essence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the essence of karam. He's Ainul Karam, okay, and any of the attributes. So when we say God is merciful, or God is the merciful, okay, He is Ar-Rahman, He is Ar-Rahim, He is the All-Merciful, He is the Ever-Merciful. When we speak of His mercy, it's totally different to saying X, Y, or Z have mercy. Okay, they have gotten something, learning and inspiring and being inspired by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His beautiful attributes. So we تخلقوا in the hadith, we are told تخلقوا بأخلاق الله. Try and adopt the beautiful characteristics or the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is Kareem, Li Kareem. He is the Kareem, sorry. He is the merciful, the generous. He is all the essence of those things. You have some of those things. Try and be generous, try and be merciful. So they're totally different levels. Now, what happens when somebody is not doing that, is doing the opposite, being cruel, for example? That's lack of mercy. Okay? God did not want us to be that, but He allowed us to choose whether we want to be merciful or we don't want to be merciful. Lack of mercy leads to what? Cruelty and so on. Lack of love, lack of mercy, lack of generosity. So in the ilm al-akhlaq, this is actually more of a Islamic ethics. Inshallah, if we get a chance, we can study the book of akhlaq of An-Naraqi, Jami' al-Sa'adat of An-Naraqi. I believe it is translated, and we can in fact, maybe I'll try and find it, and if I do find it, if any of you find it, we can share it in the group so that we can start reading earlier on, and then when we get to our discussions, we would have progressed in reading it. But in there, he speaks a lot about the opposites, certain characteristics that we should have, and the opposite of them. Okay, why? Because the opposite is the lack of. Okay, if you don't have mercy, you will have, let's say, cruelty, meanness. Okay, you don't have love and mercy. If you don't have generosity, you will have greed. Okay, so that's. I hope that answers that.
Yeah. I think, or they even mentioned if the doctor healed the patient, it's not because of their inherent ability, but because it was granted
by Allah subhanahu
Allah
wa
is the
ta'ala.
one that cures.
Yes.
Through the hands of people, just like in Surah Yasin,
Yeah.
it says to give, for the poor. No, not that. Why can't you give the people who are?
Yeah, when it's said to them, when it's said to them that feed, قالوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله فقال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه. So when it's said to them, give, feed, pay so that people can have food, basically. They said, do we feed the one who, if God wanted to, He would have fed them? Yeah, God wants to feed them, and He wants to see who is going to feed them and benefit from the opportunity of feeding them. But yeah, so healing is through God, feeding is through God, sustaining is through God, but He makes it happen through the means, the natural means. So if guidance, who is the guide? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So can I guide anyone? Yes or no? Yeah. Imam Ali, the Prophet says to Imam Ali alayhi salam, Ya Ali, la'in hadallahu bika. If God guides through you. Okay, so I become a tool of guidance. God is the guide. I'm a tool. Okay. Yes, sometimes the action is given to the tool. Okay. So for instance, kafilul yatim. The Prophet says, Ana wa kafilul yatim. I am the one who basically takes care of the affairs of an orphan. Okay. Not adopt, the one who you could say sponsors. Okay, the sponsor of an orphan takes care of all the affairs of the orphan. I and me and the person who does that are both so close in Jannah. Kahatain, he says, he puts his fingers together and he says like this in paradise, very close. So kafilul yatim, who actually takes care of the orphan? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alam yajidka yatiman fa'awa. God found you an orphan. He gave you a house. So who? God. Through who? Abu Talib. In the case of Rasulullah, it was through Abu Talib. He gave him the house. He, provided. So everything is happening through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we are the means. Okay. And when we do not do what He wants, and we do the opposite, we are, and He allows it, but He's not making us do it, then we are going into the negative side. I hope that
the book that you mentioned, Sheikh, I think it has been found. Somebody has posted on there. So
Naraqi. Thank you, brilliant.
It is in English.
Okay.
And
what is the title? They actually have the name Jama Sa'adat. Brilliant. Okay, so they didn't. Okay, they didn't translate the name. Okay,
it
so
is an al-Islam also.
okay, alhamdulillah, very good. So inshallah, that
I
could
was
be one of the
thinking maybe this
future.
one could be in conjunction with, was thinking to do it on Makarim al-Akhlaq.
Oh, okay,
Because,
yes,
They
yes.
go hand in hand, and we could
Dua
do
makarim
Dua
al-akhlaq, you mean?
Makarim
Yeah,
al-Akhlaq.
okay, yeah. Yeah,
because
we
it's
could,
about similar
yes. The topic is the
topic is
same.
similar,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
maybe few.
We can, yeah, ahsan. Yeah, that would be a good collection, inshallah. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your participation. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. إحسان.